Hello, good morning and good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the October Agile Central Community Webcast. We're excited to have you here today. My name is Caitlin Lamb. I'm in Product Marketing for Agile Central. And today here with me, I have Shay Boudreaux. She is on the Agile Central Product Management team, and she's going to be presenting on a topic that will be of particular interest to our testing community. We also have Scott Nusz on the line as well in Product Management, and he's going to chime in throughout the presentation. I just want to remind everyone to utilize the Q&A feature to the right of your screen if you have any questions. For any unanswered questions that we don't get a chance to address at the end of this webcast, we will upload a document on the communities along with the replay of this presentation. So with further ado, I'll pass it off to Shay.
Hello, everybody. So today we're going to talk about quality management within Agile Central and how we break down the big batch testing cycles. So a little bit of background and context. Traditional software development normally separates the workflow into two different phases, development and testing. Developers build a feature and then pass it over the wall to the quality assurance team for testing. The QA team then writes and executes test plans, files defects, runs end-to-end tests to make sure that no defects have been added to existing code. While the QA team moves on to this testing, the development team moves on to the next feature. In an ideal scenario, this method works and items are completely finished and shipped to customers defect-free, resulting in happy, satisfied customers. However, teams who do this waterfall-type testing model commonly find that as the product grows, testing efforts also continue to grow, and the QA team inevitably struggles to keep pace. Product management begins to face an unwelcome choice. Do I delay shipping value to my customer, or speed up time to delivery by cutting the tail end of efforts, which is usually testing? I'll give you a good guess as to which option usually wins. Since during the testing phase, the development team has already moved on to another feature, in order to address any defects found, they now have to context switch. And this can slow down development and increase time to delivery. Since product management already made the arduous decision to speed up delivery time, testing efforts have been cut, and now features are delivered to customers with bugs on them, resulting in unhappy customers. So enters the Agile testing process. Agile testing is more of an iterative process that evolves through collaboration between the developer and the tester and the team and the customer. The result is more well-tested features being delivered to your customers more often. This process eliminates bottlenecks and increases the exchange of information through conversation between team members. Completed code doesn't await a testing phase. It actually occurs during an iteration, and work is not accepted if there are any issues or defects with the provided functionality. It's important to understand that in this process, testing isn't a phase, but an integral part of the development and acceptance of work. Feedback is provided continuously to developers throughout the process. And then testing walls are also further broken down by devs testing their own work to ensure superior quality. This process decreases the effort to deliver value to customers and therefore decreases costs for development. Features are delivered to customers in fully functional and tested slices of value. This ensures that as trade-offs are made, quality isn't one of them. All slices delivered to customers have been fully tested as part of the Agile team process, and smaller slices of value are being delivered to your customers more often, resulting in happier customers.
So yeah, I mean, before we move on, so hi, this is Scott Nusz. So I'm going to chime in for just a second and just looking at that. If you think about your traditional testing strategy versus an Agile testing strategy, one of the things to ask yourself is, when do you feel like you know what's going to break, right? Like, when do you feel like you know what's gone wrong that you need to react to? And I think what Shay was just describing is, in a traditional strategy, you typically find those things at the end. at the end of the process, maybe it's 2, 3, 4, hopefully not 6 months, but you find out at the end of that process, oh wow, like a lot of things are broken, and now what do I do? There's not a lot of time. I have some deadline I need to meet, and quality suffers usually because you choose, well, I can't fix all the things, and I still need to make my deadline. And alternatively, in an Agile testing strategy, what you have the ability to do is each of those smaller slices of work that Shay was mentioning, you can test each of them individually and make sure that they're at the quality standard that you would like. So you're finding that out earlier. You can react to those learnings about the quality of the work earlier, and then maybe at the end of that 3 or 6 month scenario, instead of you cutting quality, maybe a little bit of scope falls out, but everything you've delivered was at quality, and you're able to make those decisions earlier and more intentionally. And there's other cool side effects of that Agile process as well, where maybe you can deliver value along the way as well. But just comparing and contrasting those two things, to ask yourself that question: when do I know what's gone wrong, and how can I approach that?
Thank you. Okay, so now we'll actually talk about Agile Central. So quality management in Agile Central supports the Agile testing process and flow. Beginning with our quality management page, users can create their test cases and group them into similar buckets of work called test folders. Test folders are great ways to organize your test cases for ease of finding and managing your work. Users should organize their test folders into categories such as all of my accessibility tests, or all of my internationalization tests, or my browser tests, and so on. Organizing your tests in this manner allows you to easily access and manage the tests that matter to you. In the quality management page, users can do this easily by clicking on the test case in the left-hand grid and simply dragging it to the test folder parent of your choice on the right-hand side. Since testers in the Agile strategy are part of the development process, it makes sense to show their work in context with the rest of their team. Defect management, test cases, and test sets can be visible alongside user stories and tasks on the team board. Devs and QA alike can transparently see how their work is progressing towards that slice of value for the customer. This shortens the communication loop between devs and QA, and all users can see how their work is progressing within their time box. You can easily identify bottlenecks and blockers, and teams can swarm to remove impediments. You have to remember that to our customers, there's no such thing as dev complete or testing complete. There's just complete. So Agile Central supports this model by pulling the tester into the team space. We know that test cases are expensive and time-consuming to create, and your testing needs might vary with each deliverable or iteration. We don't want your testers to have to create test cases iteration over iteration. So with our quality management page, you can either import your test cases and test steps via Excel, or if you choose to, you can create them manually within the tool. Whichever way you do this, we want you to only have to do this once, so that iteration over iteration, release over release, or milestone over milestone, users can assign their test cases from across multiple test folders into a test set within a scheduled time box. This allows you to choose the correct cocktail of test cases for your slice of value, and then customize that cocktail over and over again. In this fashion, test cases can be reused across many time boxes and many projects, and this allows your team to work more efficiently while seeing your testing efforts in context of your time box and your entire team's efforts. Results for all test cases within a test set will be aggregated underneath that test set so that you can see the results that are relevant to you within that time box. To ensure that your testers continue to work quicker and more efficiently, they can also edit, create, and manage their test sets, test cases, and test results while remaining in context of the larger scope of work. Users can gather information about their defects, children, discussions, revision history, all from the Quick Detail panel on any page. The Quick Detail panel also allows you to customize your view so that you can more quickly get the information that's important to you. Allowing your testers to create, edit, and manage their work across time boxes and part of your team is great, but we know there's another level of context that's needed. The need to see how your tests are progressing and how healthy they are is important. On our new quality management page, users can now see reports regarding their test cases that show you how healthy your testing process is. You can see if your test cases are passing or failing by method, by type, by owner, as well as see an overall health of your test cases within selected test folders. This allows you to answer questions such as, how many of my automated tests have been executed and are passing? How many of my end-to-end tests still need to be run? How's the health of my feature going? If I'm concerned about that, who should I talk to? Answering all of these questions within the tool helps save you time from having to export this outside of Agile Central and get that information elsewhere.
So yeah, if you think about all those things, like again, introspect on your own organization and where you're at from the perspective of your testing strategy. And if you think about how would it be helpful for you to have transparency to what's really happening from a testing perspective for you and your organization, and how would it be helpful for you to have reusability of test assets. So we understand that you know, all of your test cases that you've built out, those are assets for you to use in your business and reuse over time. So the reusability of that, how would that be helpful? And then just the flow. I think Shay was going through that entire flow. This is how you could flow test work through your organization and how it can be associated to the work that your developers are doing in a sort of smaller batch format inside of iterations, right? There's some powerful things there around your ability to schedule test capabilities inside of iteration, see how they're doing, and also there's the power of Agile Central as a whole, right? Like helping you understand your whole organization, not just individual teams, and start to see that across many teams and programs, and not just individual teams. And so those are all things that we can help you with, and we have a lot of flexibility around how you can support those in the platform. And I think you'll see all those things as we start to jump into demo.
Okay.
But yeah, right before we jump into demo, just really quick, one last comment, like, please let us know what your questions are, like if you're wondering about how your flow could fit into the tool, or if there's things that you are facing that are challenges for your organization and you're wondering how we can or can't support that, or today or in the future, we'd love to hear what those things are, and so we can talk about those things at the end.
Great, so I showed you now some really nice slides, some really fancy screenshots. But let me put it together for you for some recent work that we've been working on inside of Agile Central and show you actually within the tool how this process flows. So on my screen now, you can see our new quality management page. This is probably the beginning place that your testers are going to start. On this page, this is where you can actually import your test cases as well as test steps with our new import feature. You can also just create new test cases if you need to, directly from the left-hand side. We've also added new functionality to bulk copy test cases. We found from our users that this was needed functionality in order to have a starting place. Maybe you want to reuse most of your previous test cases and then change a couple things. This allows testers to actually save time and to more quickly copy test cases and begin making new ones. So you can manage your test cases on the left-hand side. You can also manage your test folders on the right. This is where you can add new test folders and manage the test cases that are underneath them. To assign a test case to a test folder, it's a really simple process. You actually just grab the test case, drag it to the right-hand grid, and drop it in. And it apparents it to that test folder. If you made a mistake, it doesn't belong there, you simply click the little X on the right-hand side and it removes it from that folder. You can also easily drag and drop test cases outside of test folders into other test folders. We call this reparenting. So if I wanted my report format test case to belong somewhere else, I can just drag it down, drop it, and it reassociates it to that new test folder. This allows users to easily manage their test cases and their test folders, to have one place to do this quickly, more efficiently, and also consistently with the rest of the product. You can manage both of these groups of work independent of one another. So I can manage my backlog of test cases independently, I can manage them together and do associations, or I can manage my test case and test folders independently of the rest of my work. So this is a really important page for our testers to get started with their test cases and their test folders. And it's important to remember that your test folders are a grouping of test cases. It's where you would group your like-minded test cases into areas of common testing. It helps you easily be able to find them, manage them, reference them, whatever you need to do. The next step in the process would be, I actually want to run my test. I want to run my test within a time box, whether it's an iteration, a release, or a milestone. I can create a test set and associate my test cases to my test set within a time box. You can reuse test cases across multiple test sets and multiple iterations. So this decreases the need for you to have to recreate test cases over and over again. It's also important to understand that you can associate multiple or the same test case to multiple test sets, even if they're in the same iteration. This really helps save testers time, that they don't have to create multiple test cases or run them multiple ways and lose that context or information. So for instance, I have release 1.2 here. I'm able to choose within that test set all the test cases that I need to out of my test folder groupings from the other page. So you can see here for release 1.2, maybe I'm releasing something into the French market. So testing French locale is really important to me, and maybe those users use Internet Explorer more than other browsers. So I want to make sure I test specifically in Internet Explorer for MVP. I'm able to choose the test cases that I want to associate to that testing effort and assign them. And you can simply do this by just clicking Add Existing Test Case. You can choose the test cases of your choice, and it associates it to that time box in that test set. The transparent view on here is also, you can see your defects that come associated with it. You can see the parent test folders and the last verdict of your test cases. And this is a great overall view of transparency within your time box. If you are a tester on a team or a dev on a team that's working with testers, your more important view would probably be the new team board. This is where, on a team level, testers and developers can see their work alongside one another and see any impediments or blockers or how the work is progressing. On my page, you can see that I have my test sets, user stories, and defects all represented in one flow. So whether I'm a developer or a tester, I can see if I'm blocked on a test set, or if I have a defect that's urgent that I need to resolve, or how well tested this slice of value is and what that means for our customer. Another really great thing that I'd like to show you, I don't have it in the tool right now, we're currently building it, but I'll show you our interactive, what we have so far for development. And this is our new reports that I talked about in the webcast. On our quality management page, users can now go to our reports tab. This allows you within the tool to quickly see information about how your tests are, how the health of them is going. You have to excuse the colors, we're not finished yet. But you have, I can see my test cases by method. Are they automated or manual? Are they failing or passing or blocked, or are there errors? I can see it by type. I can see it by verdict. So I'm able to quickly look and see I have 17 tests that passed versus 15 that failed. You can also look at test cases by owner and tell if all of these tests are failing, who should I talk to? Who's the person that I want to reach out to and open this line of communication to? This is all really great functionality that we've been working on over the past several months, and we expect it to have in an open beta fashion by the end of November.
So yeah, I mean, if you think about that, I mean, for those of you who are familiar with Agile Central, and probably most of you are to some extent, and maybe you have or have not seen our capabilities on testing in the past. Some of this is net new, and some of this is improvements to what we had before. I think you tie it back to, again, your Agile testing strategy and sort of the behaviors you're looking for as part of that, right? One is you really want your testing to feel like it's part of that individual team as they're going through their process of sort of doing testing on individual slices of work. And that goes back to team board, which Shay was showing. Like on your team board, you can see the testing work in association with the development work all together. So you can imagine being at a stand-up and having a conversation, and your tester really feels like part of the team. You're talking about their work, the developers understand what's happening from a testing perspective, and all of that's happening together, very close together. Sorry if there's a train going by, so if you hear that, it's not just sound effects from our slides. So, having that tester feel like part of the team is a big deal so that you can have those collaborations, the developers are understanding what's getting tested, and then you start to build those relationships and really think about quality all the time. And that's something easy to forget about, but it's a big part of the plan. And then in addition to that, the transparency is not just around, your individual team, but you think about the reports that we just talked about, understanding how you're performing is something that I'm sure that is interesting to management all the time, right? But it shouldn't just be for management. It should be for your individual teams and for them to understand, hey, how is it going? Like, how are we doing for the quality of what we're building, and take pride in that and have visibility to what's happening as well. So hopefully it makes sense how those views and the work that we're doing support the behaviors that you would be looking for from an Agile testing strategy. If you have questions about any of those things, we can talk about it now. And I think we're going to do a question and answer in just a minute, but I'll just get back to Caitlin for now.
Great, thanks so much, you guys. Shay, would you mind advancing to the next slide? So I can see that some great questions have been rolling in the Q&A. I'm just going to take this moment to promote some of the great Agile Academy offerings that we have available. Feel free to send in some more questions if you think of any. So for Agile Central and CA Agile Academy, we have 3 great offerings. We have an Agile Central Power User class. And for anyone on the line who is in the Boulder, Denver area, we have a Boulder class taking place on December 5th through the 6th. This class is for anyone who is currently using Agile Central and just needs a little bit of help getting the most out of the platform. And we also have a great promotional code, ACC1715, to get 15% off this Power User class. We also have great Agile certifications classes available, such as Certified Scrum Master and the Leading Safe 4.5 class. If you're interested in learning about Agile frameworks and roles at the team level or at scale, I highly suggest you visit agileacademy.ca.com for more information. And also, next month we have CA World. We have pre-con education classes happening on November 13th and 14th. And the Agile Academy team will be on site offering certification classes. So for anyone attending CA World, I highly suggest looking into these great Agile Academy offerings that we do have. So without further ado, I'll pass it back over to Shay and Scott to address some of the great Q&A that we've had come rolling in.
Yeah, so I'll take one, I think, right out the gate. So I think we had a question from Gary. Thanks for the question, Gary, around, so does this mean definition of done would include completion of the new functionality code and new test cases and that work as well, including like automated tests? And I think the answer is yes, if I'm understanding the question correctly. Just from an Agile perspective, you would want to be thinking about all of your testing work as part of your definition of done. Like, is it completely tested? And, you know, really, I think even more than that, not is it completely tested, have you made intentional decisions about all the defects that came up as part of that testing, whether it be automated or not? So I guess sort of three parts. One, what is the development that you're doing, and development of automated tests as well. If you're doing automated testing, those should be included. And then once you start running the tests, you get to make a choice. You'll find some defects, and then you should have a conversation and then decide, these are the defects that we want to fix, and you may not fix them all, shockingly enough, right? Like maybe, I remember for me, I remember when I was a product owner, at one time I had a defect that would only show up after a 47-step reproduction step. So it was extremely hard for it to actually happen, but it could happen. And it was a fairly large investment for us to fix it, so we decided to move forward without fixing that defect and see if it was something that came up quite often or not. So that is part of your definition of done, at least from what we would encourage, is you have the conversation, you understand what the quality is, and all the testing has been completed, and you've had an intentional choice made there. We usually include, or recommend including, of course, the product owner, the engineer, and the QA tester in those conversations, so everybody's aligned and feels good about those decisions and can move forward and support them. So I think that's the answer there. You know, Gary, if that did not answer your question or misunderstood, like, feel free to drop another one in there, and if we don't get to it today, we'll try to follow up after.
Okay, I saw a question about when will the new quality management page be available, Terry. I just wanted to let you know, Terry, we are currently in private beta with this page and functionality. We're more than happy to accept more private beta users. We also expect to go open beta by the end of November. So it should be relatively soon that all users will have access to this new page and new functionality.
Yep, and we'll be demoing it at CA World. So if anyone who is here on the call is going to be at CA World, come find us in the booth, and we'll be happy to show it to you and get feedback and see what you think, and we can high-five you if you like it, or we can talk about what you wish was there if you have questions.
I see a question from Dan around export to CSV option being disabled on the test folder grid within the quality management page. Just to give a little bit of context around that, we don't currently have any place in the tool where you can export hierarchies. So you can have a parent level item with its children be exported and have that into CSV. So we don't have that functionality on that side of the grid yet. It is a problem space that we are thinking about and trying to figure out how to solve. And until we figure out how to solve it, you won't be able to export the test folders and test cases together from the right-hand side. But we are looking at adding that at some point in the future once we figure out how to solve that problem. Valerie asked a question about test case by verdict in the reporting view. So to clarify, I think this will answer the majority of the question. All of the test case results that are on that report's view are the last verdict. So it's important to understand that those test cases that report is pulling off of is the last verdict of any of those test cases that you can choose by test folder. So I wasn't able to show you the test folder picker yet. It's not built, but you will basically be able to choose the test folder that you want to run this report against and see the last verdict of all of their children test cases and get that information. Yes, that was the thing. And I have a question from Jagadish around, will test folders be opened across team spaces? Will test cases be mappable to multiple test folders in the future? So I think that the problem space that you're talking about, Jagadish, is currently test folders and test cases must be assigned to the same project to be visible. And there's this direct link and association, this coupling of projects. We are actually investigating decoupling that so that you can have a test folder under one project and test cases that belong to another. And that would help create more visibility at a higher level around how are these test cases progressing across all of my projects and across all of my release trains. So we are investigating that and looking at how to implement that within the product. Will users be able to copy test folders, including their test cases? We currently don't have the ability to copy a test folder with its children test cases, but you can bulk copy test cases and assign and drag them into a new test folder. So we've simplified the way that users need to create test cases over and over again by creating the bulk copy. We just don't have a way to create that test folder test case association when we copy. But it also is important to know that when you do copy a test case, the steps are also copied with it. So this helps save the testers a lot of time when they need the majority of the information. They just have to change a couple things. Now that includes the test case as well as its steps.
Hey Gary, so I saw the question around how will test cases, status and progress in Agile Central show up in reports/insights, that part of our application. And I think our answer here is we're not making any new investments in that part of the application, specifically insights, as part of this effort. And so the reports that you see there will continue to remain the same and continue to roll up the data that's already there. If you have thoughts around that, if you're an avid user of insights and you have thoughts around what might be helpful there, it would be great to hear what those are, and we'd be happy to hear those. So I think that's the end of the questions that we have so far. So, and then we can do it like a 5-second wait to see if anybody has any last-minute questions. We're happy to answer them. Otherwise, we'll probably close here in just a minute.
All right. I don't see any additional questions rolling in. And I just wanted to thank Shay and Scott for taking the time to present on this great topic and providing a demo. And also thank you to all of you on the line who took time out of your morning or afternoon to learn more about the updates in Quality Manager. I just want to remind everyone that the replay of this session will be posted on the Agile Central community, likely by the end of this week. If you have any colleagues who didn't get a chance to listen in live today, I encourage you to share this presentation with them, share the knowledge. And also, we will not have an Agile Central Community webcast next month because of CA World. So if any of you are going to be at CA World, come find Scott or Shay or any of the other Agile Central team at our demo booths, and feel free to strike up a conversation. But until then, we will see you at the next community webcast in December. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Thanks.